welcome to Miller Park Zoo at the otter exhibit. We're feeding Spencer right now. He's turning 10 this month, so out in the wild, Spencer would be considered an older animal. Here to a median age of 20 years is what we expect to happen here. Right now, Ben is feeding Spencer herring and silver sides and squid. So the herring and the squid are saltwater food items, and then the silver sides, when you see a tiny little fish being thrown in, those are the only freshwater fish that we're feeding currently into our exhibits. Now we're using positive reinforcement to train our otters. So you'll see Ren gives him a signal with her hand, and sometimes we use a verbal if they're not listening with our hand signals or not paying attention. We'll sometimes use a verbal. And then she'll tell him good job, and then she throws in the fish. So the fish in the end is the reward, but it's the good job or a clicker if you click, or a whistle if you whistle, is what's telling Spencer he's doing exactly what you want him to do. So out in the wild, he would eat a variety of freshwater fish and crayfish. That's what he would eat out in the wild a lot of the time. Those would be his normal prey items. Now if he couldn't find any of those prey items, he would eat anything he could catch. So snakes, frogs, squirrels, small birds, small mammals, even insects or two. They're not too fussy, and they do spend a lot of their time in and around the waterways that they're living by, so lakes and rivers, and that's where they'll catch a lot of their food items when they're coming to get a drink. So that is what he would do in the wild. Now here, he has to train for his food, and we do feed him twice a day. So when the zoo is open and running normally, Spencer and Tallulah are fed at 10:30 and 3 o'clock, and we try and feed him at both those feedings if possible, if there's enough staff here on route. Are you getting any questions?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. I'll just keep.
If anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask.
All right. So, here in Illinois, otters were almost completely trapped out of the wild in the late 1800s, and that was the state of wild otters from the late 1800s until the 1990s. They just weren't doing very well here because they were trapped almost completely for their coat. So they have a double coat layer system, and trappers really like those furs, and so they trapped them a lot in the 1800s. So in 1990s, two things happened. One, the water quality got better in the state of Illinois, and we had a thriving beaver population. Out in the wild, otters don't make their own homes, so they'll take over old beaver homes if they're in the area, or they'll live in hollowed out logs just like we have here in the exhibit. And so those two factors combined encouraged the Illinois DNR to start reintroducing otters in the 1990s. So they trapped otters from the southern states, a lot from Louisiana, and they brought them the middle part of Illinois, and they reintroduced them from 94 until 97.
We do have a couple questions. Somebody wanted to know how old Spencer was
Spencer's turned 10 this month.
and where the female otter is.
The female otter is in the back. She had pups almost 3 weeks ago, a little over 3 weeks ago, and so she's in the back taking care of the pups. We have one boy, one girl pup this year. We're pretty excited about that. It's the first time we've had a mixture of sexes in our otter litters, so that is a new thing for us. And then the otters won't be out, the baby otters won't be out for about four to 5 more weeks. Everybody wants to know that next. They need to stay inside. They're like kittens. They don't do anything but eat and sleep for the first 4 to 5 weeks of their life, and then they have to learn to eat solid food before they can come outside.
How long does an otter normally live? I know you covered this earlier, but we got people just coming on.
In the wild, they'd live 8 to 10 years. Here at the zoo, their median life expectancy is 22 years, so they can double their lifespan here at the zoo.
And how many otters will we keep at the zoo, and will we share our otters?
And then when they get about that age, throw them away. And then we get homes for them, and we'll send them out when they're between 9 and 10 months old. They'll go out to other AZA facilities that need otters in their exhibits. We generally only keep a male and a female in our exhibit. It's just not big enough to have a lot of extra otters long term.
Are otters only born in the spring?
In general, otters are born in the same month that the mom is born in. So Tallulah's birthday's in February, and she's had 5 litters here at Miller Park Zoo, and they've always been born the second half of February. So they can be born from February to June, pretty likely. But if a mom had been born at a weird month, then she might give birth in that month, just like Tallulah does.
Do we know the sex of the otter pups?
Yeah, we have one boy, one girl, which is unusual for us. We've always had all boys or all girls, so this is a new thing for us.
And a lot of people just joining, so do you want to do the how old an otter generally lives again one more time?
No, one more time.
That's the most popular question.
That's the most popular question. So Spencer just turned 10, and otters in the wild live 8 to 10 years. So here at Miller Park Zoo, their median life expectancy in AZA facilities is 22 years, so we do expect him to double his lifespan from a wild otter here at the zoo. And that's because, one, this is as hard as he ever works for his food, so it's not too hard. He has to do some behaviors and get rewarded, and then if it's really cold outside, we just throw all the fish in there and he just has to retrieve them. So that's as hard as he works for his food, one. And two, anytime they're feeling unwell, the vets come to visit them at their next vet visit. We work with the University of Illinois Champaign vets, and then they help them stay healthy. So those two factors combined extend their lifespan.
Can an otter breathe underwater?
No, the otter cannot breathe underwater. He is a true mammal, and so he'll need to come up and get a breath of air outside the water.
And a few more questions about their diet. So can you give us a little more about what they eat?
Here at the zoo, we're feeding them 3 types of fish products. So we have 2 saltwater food items. Herring is what he's eating right now for saltwater fish. And then we have a 3rd type of fish that is a freshwater fish. They're a little tiny fish, about 4 inches long, and they come from the lakes of Canada, and those are silver sides. So those are the 3 types of food products he's eating right now. In the late spring, we're going to order new fish, so they might be getting new types of fish because we don't have as many fish eaters at the zoo, so we might be able to get a bigger variety.
Somebody wants to know, if you enjoy working with the otters, and if so, what's your favorite part about working with otters?
I think the otters are highly entertaining, so they're usually amusing to watch out in the exhibit. I think it's fun when the young otter pups get to come out for the first couple of times into the exhibit. That's my favorite time. Now, Tallulah's an old school swim teacher, so baby otters have to learn how to swim in the pool, and a lot of otter moms will push them around to go through the water. Tallulah bumps them in and forces them to learn how to swim. That's how. And then when they're really excited and stressed out, she'll drag them out of the water. That's Tallulah's swimming lessons right there.
What do they use their tail for?
So they have a long rudder-like tail, and that helps them turn in the water. So you'll see it's flat and very thick, so that helps him swim. So he also has completely webbed feet all the way around on all 4 paws. He has webbing in between all his toes. And so those 2 features combined make him really good swimmer. Oh, look at him showing off. Really good swimmer.
Unfortunately, we can't see the babies yet, but hopefully soon. Can you guys hear all our answers? Any idea how fast they swim?
Here at the zoo, they probably don't swim full speed ever, but I think they swim on average about 4 to 7 miles an hour. I don't think they swim a lot faster than that. They'll have high bursts of speed where they might go a little faster to catch something, but in general, they're not swimming real fast when they're going closer.
Somebody wants to know how you learned so much about otters.
I've worked at the zoo 21 years and had to do lots of research on otters because I'm always giving otter talks here at the zoo.
Someone would like to know, can otters see in the dark?
They're crepuscular in the wild right now because there's so many people out during the daytime hours. They spend a lot of time out in dusk and dawn, but I would think otters see much better in the night than we do because they're probably going to be out sometimes in the night, busy doing things. But for the most part, if you want to see otters in the wild, you want to go out really early before people start showing up outside, or after dinner time when people are, starting to go in their houses or hang out in their own yards.
People want to know, does the water here freeze?
Yeah, generally the water freezes every winter. Now this winter was pretty mild. We didn't hardly have any frozen water in the otter exhibit this year. But when it gets really cold for a couple of weeks stretch, the whole entire pond will be frozen over, and the only place water will be moving is where the water goes in and the water goes out of each pond. And so then it's completely frozen across the top. And the otters will chip away at the edges where there's some open water and then dunk down in and then come out in another open spot.
All right, since Spencer's kind of hiding out now, a couple last questions for Wendy. Do otters live in groups?
They're going to live by themselves quite frequently. North American river otters come together to breed, and then they separate, and mom does all the work out in the wild, taking care of them.
And they want to know how much the average male weighs.
So Spencer's a little on the big side. He generally weighs somewhere between 20 and 21 pounds, but on average, a male could weigh anywhere from 18 to 22 pounds. Spencer, where you at?
All right, thanks everybody for joining us. We're out of food here, and we're going to go ahead and stop the feed. Join us tomorrow for another live feed.